filthy bearded blackface of yours out of my place, now!
Sir, I have an appointment.
Shut up! We don't let cockroaches crawl through my lobby!
Please check again.
A stinking cockroach like you got an appointment with the dumpster?
Sir.
Shut up! Crawl back to your stinking dump!
His face flushed red. He lunged forward, slamming the black man face down against the hood of a Cadillac. Midtown Manhattan, morning rush hour. Pinned against the car, the man couldn't move. His cheek pressed cold metal. His charcoal suit caught the sunlight. A worn silver cufflink glinted on his sleeve. His eyes held a steely glint. The guard had no idea how steep a price he was about to pay, because minutes later that same guard would be on his knees, sobbing, begging this man for forgiveness. Rewind 90 minutes. 5:48 in the morning. A penthouse on the Upper West Side. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped the living room. Soft pink light poured across the hardwood. A coffee machine hissed. The smell of dark roast curled through the kitchen. Harrison Ingram poured himself a cup. The mug was chipped on the rim. White ceramic, faded blue letters. World's okayest dad. A gift from his daughter Zora last Father's Day. He smiled at it the way other people smile at sunrise. His phone buzzed. FaceTime. Mom. Mama, you're up early. You think I don't know what today is, baby? Her voice was warm, Atlanta deep. 78 years old and still sharper than any boardroom Harrison had ever sat in. You wearing your grandfather's cufflinks? About to put 'em on now. Good. Wear them right. He laughed quietly. Yes, ma'am. He opened a small wooden box on his dresser. Inside, resting on dark velvet, lay a pair of silver cufflinks. Old. Worn. One had a scratch across the surface. The other showed faint engraving. E.I. Elias Ingram. His grandfather. Reverend Elias Ingram, Birmingham, Alabama, 1963. He walked into a whites-only diner and asked politely for a glass of water. They broke his right hand with a wooden bat. He never moved his pinky finger again for the rest of his life. The cufflinks were the only thing his grandfather left him. Harrison held them in his palm a long moment. He whispered to no one. 60 years, Pop, and we're still dancing the same dance. He cuffed his sleeves. Slow. Careful. Like a man strapping on armor. Most people knew Harrison Ingram from magazine covers. Forbes, Fortune, The Wall Street Journal. Founder of Ingram Meridian Holdings, $86 billion under management. 3-time 40 under 40. Few people knew the man behind the headlines, and almost nobody knew that 8 weeks ago, through a quiet shell company, he had bought the Sterling Crown Tower. 62 floors of glass and marble in Midtown Manhattan. The kind of building where billionaires lease entire floors and never learn the doorman's name. Today was the soft walkthrough, before the board meeting, before the public announcement. Just Harrison walking through his own building like a regular tenant. Nobody at the building knew yet, not even security. He stood at the window and watched the city wake. Yellow cabs streamed down Broadway like beads on a thread. Steam curled up from a manhole and faded into the cold morning. His thumb scrolled to a photo on his phone. 3 years old. A white woman in a glittering green gown, laughing, raising a glass of Cabernet. Behind her, a younger Harrison stood in a white shirt with red wine bleeding down the front. Caroline Whitlock, wife of a contract partner. The St. Jude's Gala. The help is getting bold, she had said, slurring, before she dumped the glass on him. The room had laughed. Harrison had smiled. He always smiled. 2 weeks later, his board quietly canceled the $1.5 billion deal with her husband Gregory's firm. Wall Street called it the politest evisceration in M&A history. Harrison closed the photo. He didn't smile this time. Down at the curb, his longtime driver, Mr. Ellison, waited beside a Bentley. Black gloves, gray cap, 66 years old, 19 years with the Ingrams. Harrison stepped out and shook his head. "Not today, Mr. E. Driving myself." "You sure, sir?" "Vibe check. Want to walk in like a regular guy." Mr. Ellison gave him a long look. The kind of father gives a son who's about to do something stupid but brave. "Drive safe, Mr. Ingram." Harrison climbed into a black, unmarked Cadillac parked behind the Bentley. The engine purred. He tapped a text to Margaret Sullivan, his building operations director. "Coming in the front this morning. Vibe check before the board meeting." She replied instantly. "You got it, Mr. Ingram. See you at 8:15. He pulled into traffic. 23 minutes later, the Cadillac eased to the curb in front of Sterling Crown Tower. Glass climbed 62 stories into the sky. Morning sun bounced off the windows. The revolving doors spun slowly, polished brass catching the light. He stepped out, laptop bag over his shoulder, AirPods in, a gray hoodie peeked beneath his suit jacket because the morning had been cold. He smiled at his own front door. Inside, behind the marble security desk, a guard looked up. Bradley Anderson, 41 years old, 6 months on the job. The kind of man who wrote his own Yelp review and called himself the sheriff of this lobby. His eyes narrowed. Brown skin, hoodie under the suit, no badge, black sedan at the curb. Bradley's hand drifted to his radio. Click. Harrison stepped through the revolving doors. The lobby opened up around him like a cathedral. White marble floors, a crystal chandelier the size of a small car, a grand piano in the corner where a black man in a tuxedo played a soft Stevie Wonder ballad. The smell of fresh-cut lilies drifted from a vase taller than most children. He took 14 steps. That was as far as he got. A hand slammed into his chest, flat palm, hard enough to stop his breath for a second. "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Where you think you going, Chief?" Bradley Anderson. Up close, the man smelled like cheap cologne and energy drinks. His jaw was clenched, his eyes were already narrowed. Harrison took half a step back. Calm, polite. "Good morning. I have an appointment on the 58th floor." Bradley scoffed, loud. The pianist's fingers froze over the keys. "Yeah? With who? Because I don't recall the cleaning crew getting suits this morning." A woman in heels slowed her walk. Two businessmen, one black, one white, exchanged a glance. "My appointment is with Margaret Sullivan, 8:15. "Uh-huh, sure it is, and I'm the King of England." Bradley snapped his fingers in Harrison's face. "Let me see ID, real ID, not no EBT card." The lobby went quiet. The ballad stopped completely. Even the elevators paused. Harrison reached, slowly, into his inner jacket pocket. Bradley flinched. His hand snapped to his radio with a sharp slap of plastic. "Whoa! Slow movement! Hands where I can see 'em! Hands!" The pianist stood up from the bench. Slowly. He pulled his phone from his vest pocket and hid it behind a stack of sheet music. Recording. Harrison kept his hand exactly where it was. Half in, half out. He spoke gently. "Sir, I'm reaching for my wallet. You asked me to." "Don't tell me what I asked. Hand it over. 2 fingers. Slow." Harrison produced his driver's license between 2 fingers. Bradley snatched it, held it up to the chandelier light like a counterfeit 20. "Harrison Ingram. Fancy name. Real fancy. What is that? Made up?" He flipped the card, smirked. "Address says the Belvedere. You know how much rent costs at the Belvedere, boy? $42,000 a month. I pay it on the 1st. The 2 businessmen in the elevator bank stopped talking. The black one's mouth slowly opened. Bradley laughed. He turned and shouted across the lobby. "You hear that, Doreen? This brother says he lives at the Belvedere. Says he pays the rent. On the 1st." Doreen, the receptionist, said nothing. She slowly lowered her head into her hands. Bradley swung back to Harrison. He plucked the Platinum Amex card out of the wallet, held it up between two fingers like evidence. And this? Platinum Amex? Who'd you lift this off, huh? Some old lady on the train? It's mine. The name on it matches my license. Names match because you a thief and a forger. 2 for 1. He flicked the card onto the desk like trash. Let me tell you something. I've been doing this a long time. You can dress it up, you can talk all proper, but I see right through you. I see what you really are. Sir, please, just dial extension 5800. Margaret will confirm. Oh, I bet she will. Bradley leaned in close enough that Harrison could feel the heat of his breath. Same way every other lady up there confirms when men like you start dropping names. You know what we call that downtown? We call that a fishing expedition. A black mailroom worker named Terrence stopped at the elevator bank, frozen. His mail cart squeaked once and then went silent. He watched. Harrison's jaw tightened, just for a second, then loosened again. Sir, check the system. 5 seconds. That's all I'm asking. Bradley walked behind the security desk with theatrical slowness. He pretended to type. His fingers smacked the keys like he was punishing them. He didn't even look at the screen. Nope. Got nothing in here for an Ingram. You're trespassing, my man. He hadn't searched a single database. He hadn't even logged in. The screen still showed the lock screen. Sir, with respect, you didn't actually check. Did I ask for your opinion? Bradley's voice cracked off the marble. The pianist took a small step backward, phone still rolling. Ortiz, get over here! A younger guard hustled over, Latino, mid-20s. His name tag read Ortiz. His eyes immediately found the floor and stayed there. This man is non-compliant. Possible 1031. I want eyes on him. 1031. Burglary in progress. Over the radio. In a public lobby. With a man holding nothing but a wallet and a laptop bag. A businessman near the elevator said quietly, Jesus Christ. Harrison reached slowly for his phone. May I make one call? Hands out of your pockets. My phone is in my hand. I'm asking permission to use it. Bradley smacked it. The phone flew. It skidded across the marble. It spun once. The screen cracked against the base of a planter. Someone in the crowd gasped audibly. A woman in a red coat stepped forward. Sir, he didn't do anything. Bradley wheeled on her. Ma'am, step back. Step back. Mind your business or I'll detain you next. She stepped back, but she lifted her phone. So did the man next to her. So did the woman behind him. So did a tourist with a Yankees cap who didn't even work in the building. By now, there were at least 8 phones recording in the lobby. The pianist had a clean angle. So did Doreen from the reception desk with her phone hidden behind a vase. Bradley didn't notice, or didn't care. He grabbed Harrison by the back of the collar, by the collar of a $6,000 Brioni suit jacket. He yanked hard. Out! Out, out, out! He dragged Harrison toward the front doors. Harrison didn't resist. His feet shuffled to keep balance, but his hands stayed open, visible at his sides. The pianist followed, recording. The black mailroom worker Terrence was crying now, quietly. He didn't move. Bradley shouldered the revolving door open with Harrison's body. The brass frame thumped against Harrison's shoulder. He shoved him through. Out onto the sidewalk. Morning rush hour. People stopped walking. The hot dog vendor across the street turned off his radio to listen. That your car? That your car? Bradley pointed at the black, unmarked Cadillac at the curb. Driving up in here like you belong? Like you own the place? Hands on the hood! Hands on the hood! Harrison put his hands on the hood. Slow, visible, palms down. And that's where Section 1 picked up. Get that filthy, bearded, black face of yours out of my place, now! Sir, I have an appointment. Shut up! We don't let cockroaches crawl through my lobby. Please check again. A stinking cockroach like you got an appointment with the dumpster? Sir, shut up! Crawl back to your stinking dump. Bradley's face flushed red. He lunged forward. He slammed Harrison face down against the hood of the Cadillac. The metal boomed under the impact. The whole crowd flinched. A man across the street yelled, "Hey! Hey! Stop, man! Stop!" Bradley didn't stop. He pressed his forearm against the back of Harrison's neck, pinning him. "We don't let roaches walk through my lobby. Stay down!" Harrison's cheek lay against the cold metal. His silver cufflink caught the morning sun. His eyes did not close. He was counting. He was counting the witnesses, the cameras, the angles, the phones. He was counting the seconds, because in his inner jacket pocket, clipped to the lining, was a small black device about the size of a postage stamp, a panic alert, wired directly to his executive assistant Vanessa, his lead counsel Diana Hartwell, and his building operations director Margaret Sullivan. He had pressed it the moment Bradley grabbed his collar. Up on the 58th floor, 3 phones lit up at the same time. Mr. Ingram, emergency, lobby. Margaret Sullivan, 51 years old, blonde bob, navy blazer, looked at her phone. The color drained from her face. She stood up so fast her chair rolled backward and hit the wall. She ran. Down on the curb, Bradley straightened up. Proud. He hooked his thumbs in his belt and addressed the crowd like a sheriff in an old western.
Y'all see this? This is what's wrong with this city. People like him walking around acting entitled, like the rules don't apply. Well, guess what? In my lobby, the rules apply. In my building, you don't get to just... He kept saying, my building. He kept saying, my. The pianist, still recording, mouthed 2 words to himself. Oh, Lord.
Bradley wasn't done. He started patting Harrison down. Right there on the hood of the car. Sidewalk inspection, open street, camera angles in every direction. His hands moved fast and rough, down Harrison's ribs, under his arms, along his belt, down each leg to the ankle. He squeezed Harrison's wallet pocket like he was checking fruit. He patted the inner thighs. He patted the back pockets. Nothing was off limits. Here's the thing. Bradley Anderson was not a police officer. He was not a sworn agent of the state. He was a rent-a-cop in a navy blazer with a name tag and a baton. He had 0 legal authority to pat anyone down, 0 authority to search a bag, 0 authority to detain a citizen on a public sidewalk. He was committing a crime, on camera, in front of 40 witnesses. He didn't seem to know that, or he didn't care. "What's in the bag, huh? What you got in here?" He grabbed Harrison's leather laptop bag from where it had fallen at his feet, unzipped it, upended it. The whole contents tumbled out onto the hood next to Harrison's pinned face. Out spilled the contents of Harrison Ingram's morning. A MacBook Pro, 2 Mont Blanc fountain pens, a worn paperback copy of Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr., a small leather portfolio embossed with gold lettering, Ingram Meridian Holdings, a pack of breath mints, a silk pocket square, and a small silver picture frame. Bradley picked up the picture frame first. It was a photo of Zora, age 12, at her piano recital last spring. Sitting at a black grand piano, white dress, hair in 2 puffs, smiling so wide her cheeks creased. Bradley held up the picture frame and laughed. "This your daughter? Or did you steal her too?" Across the street, a woman in a wool coat audibly gasped. She covered her mouth with one hand. With the other, she lifted her phone higher. Harrison's jaw tightened. He said nothing. Bradley tossed the frame. It hit the hood, the glass cracked. A small splinter spread across Zora's smiling face. Whoops! He picked up the King paperback next, flipped it open, saw the underlined passages in yellow highlighter, snorted. Oh, look at this. Reading material. Letter from Birmingham jail. You think reading this makes you something? You think this makes you my equal? You think this makes you smart? He flipped the book over his shoulder. It landed in the gutter. A taxi rolled past and clipped it. The pages flapped open in the wind. A page tore loose and skittered down the curb. Ingram Meridian Holdings? Bradley read off the portfolio, mocking the syllables. What is this, some kind of rap label? You out here selling mixtapes? Or is this one of those money laundering operations? He laughed at his own joke. Nobody else laughed. He opened the portfolio. Inside, on heavy ivory cardstock, was a sealed manila envelope. Embossed in gold, the words on the front read, Ownership Transfer, Sterling Crown Tower, Executive Copy. Bradley's eyes went over those words. Once, twice, a third time. For a flicker of a second, doubt crossed his face. His mouth opened slightly. His shoulders shifted half an inch. Then his ego rallied. He scoffed and slapped the envelope down on the hood. You stole this from somebody's office, didn't you? You break in last night? Crack open somebody's safe? That's why you came back this morning. To clean up the evidence, right? You forgot something inside. That's why you tried to walk through my lobby. Sir, I did not. Don't sir me, boy. Bradley leaned down, close, so close his lips were almost touching Harrison's ear, so close his voice dropped low enough that the phone cameras might not catch it. Listen to me. Real careful, boy. His breath was hot. It smelled like coffee and stale gum. I've been doing this 20 years. I know your type. I've seen 1,000 of you. You can dress it up, you can put on a fancy suit, but I see you. I see what you really are. And when NYPD pulls up in about 4 minutes, and they're coming, partner, I called them. When they pull up, you're gonna ride downtown. Trespass, resisting, possession of stolen property, maybe a little assault on a security officer if I write it up right. He pressed his forearm harder against the back of Harrison's neck. You're gonna spend the night in central booking. Maybe a few nights. Depends on how I feel when I'm writing the report. And let me tell you something else. When you come out, you're gonna learn what it means to belong somewhere, because it sure ain't here. You understand me, boy? Harrison turned his head slightly. Slowly. The cold metal scraped his cheek. He looked Bradley in the eye. Then he smiled, gently. Sir, you should stop talking now. Genuinely. For your own sake. Bradley laughed, loud and ugly. Or what, big man? Or what? He slammed Harrison's head back down against the hood. The metal thunked under the impact. Harrison closed his eyes. And here, for the first time all morning, something cracked. Just a hairline, just for a second. His right hand pressed flat against the hood, slowly curled into a fist. The knuckles went white. A vein in his temple pulsed once, twice, 3 times, and from the corner of his eye, a single tear rolled down. Not a tear of fear, a tear of rage, of accumulated rage. 3 generations of rage. Birmingham diner rage, hospital hallway rage, wine-stained shirt at a charity gala rage. The tear hit the hood and pooled there next to his cheek. He thought about Zora. He thought about her face in the cracked frame. He thought about her watching this video on her phone tonight at the dinner table. He thought about Reverend Elias Ingram and his broken pinky finger and the wooden bat that broke it 60 years ago. He thought, just for a second, about reaching back and breaking Bradley's nose. About how good it would feel. About how satisfying And then he thought about what happens to black men who fight back on camera. Even when they're right. Even when they own the building. Even when they have the receipts. Especially when they have the receipts. He thought about how anger is a luxury black men cannot always afford. About how his grandfather had taught him that. He opened his eyes. He uncurled his fist. He wiped the tear into the metal with his cheek. And he waited. Bradley pulled his collapsible baton from his belt. He didn't extend it. He just rested it across Harrison's back, like a hand on a piece of furniture. Pressure, implied violence, an object designed to break bones resting on the spine of a man who hadn't moved a muscle. A man across the street yelled, "He's not even moving, man! He's not even moving!" Bradley wheeled around without taking the baton off Harrison's back. "You want to get detained too? Stand back! Stand back!" The crowd shrank one step. But the cameras didn't. The cameras pressed closer. A siren started, far off but coming. 2 streets away. Then 3 sirens. Then 4. They wove between buildings, bouncing off glass. Inside the building, Margaret Sullivan was already in the elevator. 58th floor. 57th. 56th. She watched the numbers count down. She mouthed 3 words on a loop. "Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God." Her hands shook. She gripped the brass elevator rail so hard her knuckles turned white. Her phone was still in her other hand. The notifications still glowing. Mr. Ingram, emergency, lobby, 35th floor, 24th, 16th, 8th, 4, 2, lobby. The doors slid open. Out on the curb, Bradley was still talking, still performing for the crowd. "This is exactly what's wrong with this city, you hear me? People walking around acting entitled, acting like they own the place. Well, guess what? In my lobby, on my shift, in my building. That's not how it works. You don't get to just stroll in here like you're somebody. You're nobody. You hear me? Nobody. You're a roach. Roaches don't walk through marble. Roaches don't ride elevators. Roaches crawl. So you crawl back to wherever you came from." The pianist David Brooks was still recording. His hands were shaking too, but he held the phone steady. 40 years he'd played piano in fancy hotel lobbies. He'd watched a lot of things. He had never watched anything like this. He whispered to himself, soft as a prayer, "Keep talking, brother. Keep talking. You're writing your own ending." The revolving doors of Sterling Crown Tower spun fast. Too fast. Margaret Sullivan burst through at a full sprint, heels clattering, navy blazer flapping, hair flying loose from the careful bob she'd combed an hour earlier. She didn't slow down. She saw Bradley. She saw the baton on Harrison's back. "Bradley! Bradley Anderson! Step away from him, right now!" Her voice cracked across the sidewalk like a whip. Bradley turned. He saw her. And here, for one beautiful second, he relaxed. He thought she was coming as backup. He hooked his thumbs in his belt loops. He puffed his chest out. "Miss Sullivan, ma'am, I got the situation handled. Attempted unauthorized entry, possible burglary. This individual was non-compliant and—" "Bradley." Her voice was low now, shaking. "Bradley, get your hand off Mr. Ingram." A pause. Bradley blinked. "Mr. who?" Margaret stopped walking. She stood 5 feet from the Cadillac, her eyes locked on Bradley like a laser. She spoke loud enough for the entire crowd, loud enough for every phone camera, loud enough that the words would echo across the internet for the rest of the year. "This is Mr. Harrison Ingram." She paused after every word. "Founder and majority shareholder of Ingram Meridian Holdings, $86 billion under management. As of 43 days ago, Mr. Ingram is the sole owner of Sterling Crown Tower. He owns this building. He owns the ground we are standing on. He owns the chair you sit in every morning, Bradley. He owns the contract that pays your salary. Silence. The kind of silence you could hear traffic stop in. The pianist's hands went numb around his phone. He kept the camera steady. Doreen, the receptionist, clamped her hand over her mouth. Ortiz, the junior guard, took 3 full steps backward, like he could physically distance himself from this catastrophe. A man in the crowd whispered, "Oh, shit." Bradley's brain rebooted in stages. Confusion first, blank face, then denial. He shook his head. "No, ma'am, that can't, no." Then the replay. Every word he had said in the last 15 minutes hit him at once. Filthy, cockroach, boy, stinking dump, my building. Each word landed like a slap. Then the color drained from his face. His skin went gray. Then pure biblical terror. The baton fell off Harrison's back and clattered onto the curb. Harrison Ingram stood up, slowly, deliberately, the way a man stands when nothing in the world can rush him anymore. He brushed the dust off his suit. He picked up his cracked phone. He picked up the silver picture frame with Zora's face in it. He kissed the cracked glass and slid it into his inside pocket. He turned to the crowd. "I'm so sorry for the disruption this morning," he said. Warm, calm, like he was apologizing for being late to dinner. "Thank you for staying. Thank you for recording." He turned to David Brooks. "What's your name, sir?" David, sir. David Brooks." "David, thank you for not putting that phone down. Would you send me your recording? Margaret will give you my assistant's number." David nodded so fast he almost dropped the phone. And then, Harrison turned to Bradley. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't move closer. He just looked at him. "Mr. Anderson?" Bradley's knees buckled. "You had your hand on my chest 20 minutes ago. You called me a cockroach. You called me boy. You searched my bag without consent. You assaulted me on a public sidewalk in front of 40 witnesses. You threw my daughter's photograph onto a car hood and cracked the glass. You broke my phone." Each sentence landed like a stone on a coffin. "You did all of that without once, not once, checking my appointment. Margaret is going to pull the access log in 90 seconds. We both know the answer is 0 keystrokes." Bradley's mouth opened. Nothing came out. His legs gave out. He dropped to his knees on the cold concrete. Right there on the sidewalk. In front of the cameras. In front of the crowd. In front of the entire watching internet that didn't know it was watching yet. He grabbed at the cuff of Harrison's pant leg. "Sir, Mr. Ingram, sir, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Please, I have 3 kids. My wife, please, please don't." Tears running down his face. Real tears. Snot. The whole show. The dignity he had tried to strip from Harrison was now being stripped from him in real time, by his own body, by his own collapse. Harrison looked down at him the way a man looks at a stain he is about to clean. "Stand up, Mr. Anderson." "Sir, please," I said. "Stand up." Bradley scrambled to his feet, still sobbing. "You don't get to kneel," Harrison said. Quiet. Even. "Kneeling is for repentance. Repentance starts with the truth. You didn't treat me this way because I didn't have a badge. You treated me this way because of what I look like. We both know that. The cameras know that. In about an hour, the country is going to know that." Sirens screamed up the block. 2 NYPD cruisers pulled up. Officer Wilson, 30-year veteran, gray hair under his cap, stepped out and immediately recognized Harrison. "Mr. Ingram, you all right, sir?" "I'm fine, officer. But Mr. Anderson has statements to make on the record. I'd like to file a formal complaint." Officer Wilson looked at Bradley. at the broken phone, at the cracked photo frame. He smiled, small and grim. "Yes, sir, Mr. Ingram. Yes, sir." Inside the lobby, 5 minutes later, Bradley sat in a folding chair near the security desk. Officer Wilson stood on one side, Margaret Sullivan on the other. The lobby was still full of phones recording. Bradley was still talking, still digging. "Look, I was just following protocol. We had reports of a suspicious individual." Margaret cut him off. "What reports, Bradley? Show me the incident logs." I hadn't logged anything yet. The reports were verbal." "From whom?" A long pause. "I don't remember." Officer Wilson exhaled through his nose, dry. "Sir, you want to keep talking before your union rep arrives? Every word you say is going on the record." Bradley closed his mouth. Margaret pulled up the building access database on her tablet. She tapped the screen twice and turned it around. There it was, plain as day. Ingram, Harrison, 8:15 a.m. Sullivan, Margaret, walkthrough, confirmed. The appointment had been in the system for 9 days. Margaret pulled up the access log next. The keystroke history for Bradley's terminal showed exactly 0 searches. He had never logged in. The screen was still on the login prompt. She turned the tablet so Officer Wilson could see. Wilson nodded slowly. Margaret turned to Bradley. Her voice was steady, quiet, devastating. "Bradley Anderson, effective immediately, you are suspended without pay. Surrender your key card, your radio, your baton, your name tag. You will be escorted off this property in handcuffs." "Miss Sullivan, please, I have a mortgage. I have kids, please." Margaret leaned in slightly. "You should have thought about your mortgage before you called a man a cockroach in my lobby." Officer Wilson stepped forward. "Mr. Anderson, hands behind your back. You are being detained pending charges for assault, unlawful imprisonment, and harassment. You have the right to remain silent." The cuffs clicked shut on Bradley's wrists. He cried openly. Snot, tears, the dignity stripped from him in the exact way he had tried to strip it from Harrison. Officer Wilson walked him out the same revolving doors Bradley had dragged Harrison through 40 minutes earlier. The same crowd was still on the sidewalk. Now there were 3 news vans. Someone had tipped off the local ABC affiliate, then NBC. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Anderson, did you call Mr. Ingram a cockroach?" Bradley lowered his head, tried to hide his face behind his cuffed hands. Couldn't. Harrison stepped onto the marble steps in front of the building. Cameras flashed. He held up one hand. "This morning, I tried to walk into the building I own. I was profiled, assaulted, publicly humiliated, and called a slur by an employee of a contractor we hired. I'm one of the lucky ones because I have the resources to fight back. Most people who experience this don't. I'll have a longer statement at 6 p.m. He turned and walked back through the revolving doors. Inside, he stopped at the security desk. Looked at Ortiz. "Ortiz, you watched. You said nothing. We're going to talk." Ortiz nodded. He couldn't lift his eyes off the floor. That night, 11:48 in the evening, the 58th floor. Lights out except a single desk lamp. Harrison sat in his chair, suit jacket on the desk, tie loosened, a glass of whiskey in front of him, untouched. He had watched the viral clip 17 times, 4 million views and counting. He picked up his phone, called his mother in Atlanta. She answered on the second ring. She had been waiting. "Mama?" "I'm here, baby." Long silence. Harrison opened his mouth twice. Couldn't speak. "Mama, I'm sorry you had to see that." His mother's voice was steady, old as a river. "Son, I watched your daddy get beat in Selma in 1965. I watched your grandfather die on a hospital hallway floor in 1971 because they wouldn't take him in the White Wing. I don't need you to apologize. I just need you to come home for Sunday dinner." Harrison's shoulders shook. He didn't sob. He just cried. Quietly, tears running into his collar. "Yes, ma'am. I'll be there." He hung up, walked to the window, looked down at the sidewalk where he had been pinned 14 hours earlier. He whispered to the glass, "I didn't want to be this strong, Pop. I just wanted to go to work." By midnight, the clip had 8 million views. By 6 the next morning, 18 million. By breakfast, hashtag Roaches in my lobby was the #1 trending hashtag in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Brazil, and Nigeria. David Brooks, the pianist, became an overnight folk hero. The clip he took, clean angle, full sentence audio, no shaky cam, was the most reposted security video of the year. Internet sleuths went to work on Bradley Anderson within hours. His Facebook profile was scrubbed by noon, but archive sites had already grabbed everything. The Sun Tzu quotes, a Confederate flag in his 2019 profile picture, a 2020 rant about thugs ruining this country, a 2022 post calling for stop and frisk in every borough. By Friday, 3 days after the incident, Bradley's life had unraveled. His wife filed for separation. Apex Sentinel Security lost 18 corporate accounts in 7 days, including the entire Sterling Crown Tower contract, $24 million annually. They publicly fired Bradley and disavowed his conduct. His GoFundMe got taken down after 6 hours. The most damning thing wasn't even the bystander footage. It was Bradley's own body camera. He had been wearing one, forgot it was running. The body cam captured every word, the slur, the whispered threats, the "my building," all of it, in high definition. His own equipment damned him more than anything else. 4 months passed, subpoenas went out, depositions stacked up, and on a cold Tuesday morning in March, the case reached New York County Supreme Court. Before the trial, Diana Hartwell, Harrison's lead counsel, sat across from him in a wood-paneled conference room. She slid a folder across the table. "Harrison, listen to me. You don't have to testify. The DA has all the footage. Margaret will testify. The pianist will testify. You don't have to put yourself on that stand and relive it." Harrison didn't open the folder. "Diana, if I don't take that stand, the next black man pinned on a hood, the one who doesn't own the building, has nobody on a stand. I'm going." Diana looked at him a long moment, then nodded once. "Then we prep." They prepped for 3 weeks. Mock cross-examinations, tone control, pause control. How to answer a hostile attorney without giving him an opening. In one rehearsal, Diana played the defense attorney. She asked Harrison to repeat the exact words Bradley had said. Harrison made it through filthy and cockroach. Then he reached the word boy. He stopped. He pushed back from the table. He walked out and stood in the hallway for 14 minutes. He drank a glass of water. He came back. Diana didn't say a word. She just waited. That night, Harrison wrote 3 sentences on a yellow legal pad and slid it across to her. "Anger is a luxury. I cannot afford to cry on the stand. The man I am becomes the man they protect." Diana folded the paper, put it in her briefcase. She would carry it for the rest of her career. The trial lasted 6 days, and the prosecution called its witnesses in an order that built like a slow drumbeat. David Brooks took the stand on day 2 in a borrowed gray suit. He told the jury he had played piano in luxury hotel lobbies for 11 years. He had seen drunk white men scream at waitstaff, break glassware, throw punches. He had never seen anyone slammed onto a car hood. Not once, he said. Not one time. The difference wasn't behavior. The difference was skin. The jury wrote that down. Doreen took the stand on day 3. She cried before the questions even started. She admitted she had been afraid to speak up for the 6 months Bradley worked there. He had once told her that people like you are lucky to have this job. She had never told her manager. "I'm telling now," she said into the microphone. "I should have told sooner." Ortiz took the stand on day 4. The junior guard, Latino, mid-20s, 3 kids at home. The prosecutor asked, "Mr. Ortiz, did you witness Bradley Anderson assault Mr. Ingram?" "Yes, sir." "Did you believe it was wrong?" A long pause. "Yes, sir." "Then why didn't you intervene?" Ortiz broke down. Tears. He gripped the edge of the witness box. "Because I have 3 kids. Because I needed the job. Because every morning for 6 months I told myself, next time. Next time I'll say something, but next time never came. I'm so sorry, Mr. Ingram. I'm so sorry." Harrison, sitting at the plaintiff's table, gave one small nod. Not forgiveness, not punishment, just witness. Harrison himself took the stand on day 5. He testified for 92 minutes. Calm, surgical, quiet. The defense attorney tried to score a point near the end. He leaned on the railing and asked almost casually, "Mr. Ingram, you could have simply produced your ownership documents at the very beginning, isn't that correct?" Harrison looked at him. 3 full seconds, then spoke. "Sir, asking that question means you believe black men must carry proof of their dignity. I don't agree. The next black man Bradley Anderson encounters in a lobby will not own the building. He will be a man going to work. This verdict must protect that man, not me." The defense attorney looked at the floor. "No further questions, Your Honor." A juror in the second row wiped her eyes. The jury deliberated 3 hours. They returned with a verdict that left the courtroom dead silent. Guilty on all counts. Assault in the 3rd degree. Unlawful imprisonment. Harassment. And, added by the Department of Justice, violation of civil rights under color of authority. 4 years in state prison. 2 years federal, consecutive. $185,000 in restitution. Permanent ban from holding any law enforcement or security license in the United States. Harrison donated the full restitution to a Harlem Youth Scholarship Fund that same afternoon. Outside the courthouse, a reporter asked him about the moment Bradley had knelt. He knelt because he was scared of consequences, not because he was sorry. The difference between repentance and panic is whether you'd do the same thing again if nobody was watching. Bradley would. That's why he's where he is. 6 weeks after the sentencing, Harrison stood at a podium and announced the Ingram Dignity Initiative. $250 million in endowment. Free legal representation for victims of racial profiling. Mandatory de-escalation and anti-bias training at every property in the Ingram Meridian portfolio. 384 buildings nationwide. A new certification called Belong Here. Other landlords began competing to earn it. That night, Harrison came home. Zora ran across the living room and threw her arms around his waist. "Dad, the girls at school saw the video. They cried." "What did you tell them, baby?" "I told them my dad is the calmest man on earth, and nobody should ever make him wait." Harrison laughed. Really laughed. The first one in months. 1 year later, on a Tuesday morning in early spring, the lobby of Sterling Crown Tower looked the same. Same marble floors, same crystal chandelier, same fresh lilies in the tall vase. But the people had changed. David Brooks was at the grand piano, full-time on salary now, playing a soft arrangement of Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground. Behind the security desk stood Yvette Carter, the new head of security, a black woman in her late 50s with 30 years of NYPD detective work behind her. Her badge was clean. Her smile was warm. Her standards were ironclad. A young black man in a hoodie pushed through the revolving doors. Laptop, bag, AirPods. Yvette looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. 8th floor, the architecture firm. Coffee's already on your desk." He smiled back and walked toward the elevators like he belonged there. Because he did. Behind him, a delivery driver pushed a cart of flowers through the doors. 2 construction workers in dusty vests came in to check a renovation upstairs. Yvette greeted each of them by name. The piano kept playing. By the end of that first year, the cast of this story had scattered into very different futures. Bradley Anderson was serving the first year of his 6-year sentence at a federal correctional institution upstate. He filed an appeal. It was denied. He filed another. It was denied again. Margaret Sullivan had been promoted to Vice President of Operations at Ingram Meridian Holdings, with a corner office on the 58th floor. Ortiz left the security industry. He enrolled at CUNY on a full Ingram Dignity Initiative scholarship, studying social work. His 3 kids called him every night to ask how the homework was going. David Brooks released his debut jazz album 6 months after the trial. The track titled Cold Metal, Warm Sun, written about the morning he watched Harrison Ingram pinned on a Cadillac hood, was nominated for a Grammy. Doreen, the receptionist, became the building's director of tenant relations. Carolyn and Gregory Whitlock quietly relocated to Florida. Their names no longer appeared in any boardroom in Manhattan. Sometimes that is the best revenge, simply ceasing to exist in the conversation. Harrison Ingram still drove himself to work, still parked in the guest spot, still walked through his own front door like anyone else. Except now every morning Yvette greeted him by name and asked about Zora's piano lessons. Some mornings she played a piece so cleanly it brought him to tears at the kitchen table. The Ingram Dignity Initiative funded 11 civil rights cases in its first year and trained 19,000 security personnel across the country. The Belong Here certification appeared on 46 new buildings by the end of that spring. 3 major hotel chains adopted the same standard by summer, and on a quiet evening in late April, Harrison stood at his penthouse window again, watching the city wake. Zora was practicing piano in the next room. His mother was on her way up from Atlanta for Sunday dinner. His grandfather's cufflinks rested in the wooden box, waiting for tomorrow morning. He picked up his coffee. Pink light poured across the hardwood the way it had a year ago. He thought about the man he had been on that Cadillac hood. He thought about the man he was now. They were the same man. They had always been the same man. The lobby just finally knew it. Dignity should not come with a deed. Respect should not come with a job title. And the most powerful thing you can do is not to be Harrison Ingram in the lobby. It is to be the person in the crowd who says out loud, "He didn't do anything. Let him go." That voice is the one that turns a story like this into a future where stories like this stop being necessary.
So here is where I want you in the comments below, and I read them, I really do. Tell me this. Have you ever been the person on the hood? Have you ever been the person in the crowd? And, be honest, have you ever been the person who looked away? Drop your story. If this moved you even a little, hit that like button, share it with somebody who needs to see it, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We have more coming. Real ones, big ones.
And as the camera pulls back from the Sterling Crown Tower, with the morning sun climbing over the glass, a single line of white text appears on the screen. For everyone who ever had to prove they belonged, you always did. Yo, your dignity ain't something you gotta prove for. You don't owe anyone a deed, a title, or a uniform to be respected. And to the witnesses out there, don't just film it. Speak up. Silence is a vote. Choose which side your vote goes on.